That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We getting money. That ain't our stilo.
If anybody know me, bro, that ain't my stilo, bro. You know what I'm saying? That ain't how I get down, bro. Like, that ain't how none of my people get down.
Boosie is catching all the heat right now. The streets are not messing with him after it came out that he was the one who called the hit on Duke the Jeweler. He's straight up blacklisted from a place he once called home. He's already caught hands once, and if he shows his face in the hood again, he might be leaving on a stretcher. But we all know Boosie is part of the Mob Ties crew, and Duke the Jeweler died playing one of their loaded dice games, just like Takeoff. So now everyone's asking, did Boosie sacrifice Duke, or is he being set up to take the fall for something he knows nothing about? Duke the Jeweler's death sparked so much outrage because it didn't feel like an accident. It felt like an execution. But before we get into all the suspicious facts that don't line up, we have to talk about how it all went down. Duke the Jeweler had been at a dice game all night, playing side by side with guys he thought were his friends who were probably throwing secret signs behind his back all along. But why would anyone want to set Duke up in the first place? Duke is one of those guys who built his empire from scratch. All hustle, no handouts. He was creating unique jewelry pieces for up-and-coming rappers, but some of his clients were the heavy hitters. Even when he left his home in Chicago for Houston, he wasn't just going there for fun and games. He went there on business, and guess who invited him over? None other than Boosie. Boosie claimed he wanted to talk about some custom pieces, so Duke went prepared. $1 million duffel bag filled with his best designs, ready to talk business. But what he didn't know was that this trip would be his last, and that duffel bag filled with his precious designs. It would turn up in the most unexpected place. But first, let's talk about this dice game, because there's a direct link between it and Duke's death. According to reports, this game wasn't any ordinary game. It was a setup from the beginning. And it was Whack 100, someone with real street ties, that finally popped the lid and confirmed what everyone had been thinking. He said that if you ever get invited to a dice game in Houston, especially one hosted by J Prince, you better run. Because the chances of you coming out of that game without losing all your money, or worse, your life, are very slim. And according to him, that's exactly what happened to Duke the Jeweler. He fell into that trap and paid the price with his life. Whack then broke down how the whole thing works. See, the dice games are rigged. The rollers have been manipulated in such a way that only J Prince Jr. or members of his Mob Ties crew can win. It's like a robbery operation under the guise of a fair match. The house always wins, and when they don't, that's when the mask slips. Someone had messed up the flow during the game and passed the loaded dice to Duke, so he just kept winning and racking up those hundreds, and just like that, he had broken the system.
He got three right, who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. Tell me it's a Wolf, Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotators, right? He said what? There was a situation that occurred that a certain jeweler around and got past the dice on accident and was hitting all them for a couple hundred. They got irritated about that. I ain't gonna go too far into that story because, right, boom. The only way they could get their money back was however their money back. He said, but Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big Caprice.
He wasn't just winning, he was documenting it too. Duke pulled out his phone, filming himself dropping stacks and laughing at the table. At first, it looked like normal flexing, but when those videos resurfaced, people started noticing things in the background, side glances, whispers, and little signals that didn't look like fun at all. And get this, allegedly, J Prince pockets 30% of every game night haul. So when Duke broke the system, it didn't just ruin their game, it messed up the money. Now here's where things get shady. Duke had been recording parts of that dice game on his phone, posting them to show off his winning streak. But when people replayed those same clips later, they caught something Duke himself never noticed. Watch closely. Boosie leans back, gives a quick signal to his nephew across the table, and suddenly the whole vibe changes. His nephew locks in, another guy taps him on the shoulder, and just like that, the room goes cold. One moment, Duke was laughing, tossing dice, having a good time like it was just another game. The next, the air in the room had turned ice cold. Now here's where it goes from shady to downright sinister. Just minutes after the game ended, Duke was walking back to his car. No security, no entourage, just a guy holding millions in jewelry and stacks of cash in a duffel bag, walking through a dark Houston parking lot. One minute, Duke was excited about his game winnings and skipping back to his car. The next, shots go off. So many things didn't add up. For example, knowing how tense things could get out there, why did a millionaire like Boosie invite a guest from out of town and not hire security, especially a guest that he knew was going to be hauling around millions worth of jewelry? And why didn't J. Prince Jr. have any security set up to make sure the people attending his dice game left untouched? But that was not even the most confusing part of all this. It was what police found out when they got to the scene that changed this tragedy into a full-blown conspiracy. So, police arrive on the scene, and they're told that Duke was ambushed by a gang of robbers. But when they get there, they find Duke lying in his own pool of blood, with his chains still on him. What kind of robber guns a man down and then flees without snatching the obviously expensive chains on the man's neck? Mind you, those were the same chains that Duke had worn to Boosie's concert earlier that night. But here's the real mind twist. The duffel bag Duke was carrying, the same one that had all his top-tier unreleased jewelry designs, it was gone. But when Houston PD started looking into it, the bag suddenly popped up, in Boosie's house of all places. It's not clear whether Duke had personally handed over the bag to Boosie for safekeeping during the game, or if Boosie somehow ended up with it after the fact. But the one clear thing is that the bag made it out of that night unharmed. But Duke didn't. Now, Boosie went live and tried to spin the whole robbery angle. But at this point, the gig was up. His story was shaky. He claimed that he didn't really know Duke all that well, and Duke just walked off after the game. But if that's true, then how come Boosie invited him to a private dice game with some of his own close associates? On top of that, Duke probably would never have come if Boosie hadn't told him that he wanted a custom piece. So we had Duke flashing $1 million in jewels without security only to turn around and say he didn't even know the guy that well. Something wasn't adding up. And let's be real, Boosie didn't look calm or confident as he told that story. He looked pale, rattled, like someone who had just seen a ghost. That's not exactly the reaction you would expect from someone who has nothing to hide.
Hey, the internet, y'all got us all the way up. We met that dude, Duke the Jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We getting money. That ain't our stilo. As a boss, I ain't letting that go down like that, man. This dude finna make me a piece. So y'all need to kill that. That's bad low, man. Don't put us in nothing with no bad low. It's bad low, man. This shit bad low, man. Straight up, this shit bad low. Kill it.
In fact, at this point, nobody believed a single word that came out of Boosie's mouth. The more he spoke, the more it seemed like a desperate attempt to cover his trail. And when the clips and interviews started circulating online, the comments went crazy. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. Boosie seemed to know everything Dude did before and after, almost like he was watching Duke. That reaction blew up because it echoed exactly what everyone else was already thinking. It was looking so shady that the feds had to step in, and when they did, that's when things got real. Boosie was already under their radar for other unrelated gun charges. But when the facts in Duke's case started pointing back to him, they opened a whole new investigation into this. And they just kept finding one shady fact after another. They started by tracking Duke's phone, and its last known ping was in Boosie's studio. Now, unless Duke's phone magically walked itself over there, someone in Boosie's circle must have taken it there. That's not a coincidence. It's not sloppy work either. It's confidence, the kind of cockiness you only get when you think you've beaten the system and gotten away with something you should go down for. But it got even shadier when the feds ran a forensic sweep of Duke's rental car, and they found fingerprints belonging to Boosie's cousin and nephew. Suddenly, that signal they passed to each other during the game became spooky. Like that was the exact moment that Duke's fate was decided. He was already a dead man, he just didn't know it yet. And just when it looked like things couldn't get any darker, it did. Because a witness who saw the whole thing go down came forward with a story even the feds couldn't ignore. They'd been outside smoking when they allegedly saw Duke walking up to his car. At first, everything seemed normal, but then Boosie's nephew popped out of nowhere like he'd been waiting in ambush. Duke must have sensed that something was off at this point because he allegedly swung first, but he never stood a chance. Within seconds, shots go off, and Duke is lying there lifeless. According to the witness, there was no robbery at that time, and no attempts to make it look like one. Because it was never about the robbery, it was about silencing Duke, making him pay for beating a rigged game against all the odds. And the feds don't mess around, they're not just asking questions and pushing paper. They're taking a microscope to every single part of Boosie's life, from his businesses to his personal correspondence. Even his son is being looked at. That's not just an investigation, it's a full-blown surveillance. They know Boosie is going to slip, and when he does, they'll be there to catch him. But if you thought that was bad, wait till you hear how Boosie is being treated out in the streets he once called home. The last time he showed his face down there, he got jumped by a bunch of guys tired of watching their neighborhood turned into a death trap. And now, he can't even take a walk out there without heavy security. And even then, he has to constantly watch over his shoulders so he doesn't get dropped. But before anyone feels bad for him, remember he was the one who created this monster, Boosie, J. Prince Jr. They all created and fed the check-in culture where any rapper or person of note in the hip-hop world has to go pay respects to them immediately they touch down Houston. J. Prince makes them pay a hefty price for protection. And if they don't pay it, they get ambushed, robbed, and sometimes even unalived. Is it really protection if the alternative is getting robbed and gunned down? And then there are the dangerous dice games that almost always end in a shootout. Just 2 weeks after Duke lost his life, Takeoff tragically died after attending another one of those dice games. This time, he didn't even make it to the parking lot. He got shot right at the table where he was playing the game. There's only so many coincidences that can happen before it starts to look really shady. And all of this violence being linked back to Boosie isn't just hurting his reputation, it's hurting his wallet. Brands are scared to associate themselves with him. Business partners are shelving deals till further notice. And the mob tie crew who he once thought would have his back, they've left him for the wolves. In all this, all Boosie had to say for himself was more flimsy excuses. Then came the DJ Vlad interview, the one everyone was waiting for. People were glued to the screen, expecting Boosie to finally clear the air. Instead, he dodged every question, hid behind his shades, and flat out denied knowing much about Duke. But the way he said it, the tone, the body language, fans caught it instantly.
So the next day, dude hit my partner like, man, y'all got the concert, let us trail y'all, woo-de-woo. So dude went with us to the concert, and after I come off stage, everybody leaving. You know, we parked under the parking lot, under the arena where the celebrities parking and all that shit. He was in another car. He walked to his car. His car was outside the arena under where we was. It was on side the parking lot, so he had to walk to his car. And that's where the incident took place when somebody, you know, tried to get him or whatever. But Vlad, bro, if anybody know me, bro, that ain't my stilo, bro. You know what I'm saying? That ain't how I get down, bro. Like, that ain't how none of my people get down. And that's just the bottom line. That's shit that we wouldn't do. And, you know, we was about it because obviously they were watching us. You know, obviously they were waiting for anybody to walk across that parking lot to them cars and get in them cars. So, you know, it could have been one of us, man. You know what I'm saying? But it's just that happened to that dude. You know, it just internet trying to...
That clip spread like wildfire because nobody believed a word of it. The comment section was flooded with people saying things like, Boosie wearing his sunglasses so he wouldn't look Vlad eye to eye when he's lying. He capping? He definitely had something to do with it. Boosie can say whatever he wants, but he knows who and what went down. From these comments, it's clear that public opinion is no longer on Boosie's side. He can deny it all he wants, but nobody's buying it anymore. The streets turned on him, the feds are closing in, and now he's just sitting there, sunglasses on, quiet, like he knows the walls are already closing.